Let's try it again. Hello, my Teaserking family. I keep having like internet connection issue, and it kind of freezes the video, and then I guess it buffers, and I don't know if it comes back or not. So we will try for the third time. But this way, it's kind of what I want is I want hour chunks, not 3 hour chunks. So we'll see. So we were talking about the Fort Knox gold, the British going bankrupt when they were the reserve currency because they had to pay things. World War One cost them money, and they bought the arms from the U.S., much like Sherlock Holmes #2, where Moriarty sold arms to both sides. So they had to give us some gold for their arms in World War One, and then in World War Two. To fight Hitler, they needed more arms and stuff to fight Hitler, and that cost them all their gold. They did go bankrupt. They did default, as you'll see in #2. They defaulted and didn't pay us. And then it was like in the 1920s. In the 1940s, they're going, hey, we need more money. And we said, only in gold. And then we ended up loaning them money at this huge interest rate, which they finally paid off in I think it was 2016. So from 1940 something to 2016, it took how long to pay us back? So if you think, well, we'll just default and not pay the treasury, the $36 trillion is mostly treasuries, right? To other countries. So if you think you're just not going to pay China and Russia and Japan, you're out of your minds. You'll never, then how do you continue as a country? At what point then can you, well, wait, we're still overspending because of the debt, because of the Social Security, the Medicare, the military, the interest on the debt. We still need money, right? We can't print it because you go bankrupt. That's what happens. That's what happened to British. You don't think they printed more money? It did. It became worthless. I don't know why the pound's worth more than the dollar right now, because it's worthless. So with that said, if you think you're going to default, then you're going to need money, right? Because you're going to keep spending more than you're taking in, because now it's a governmental economy. It's a public economy, not a private economy. And just in a second, I want to get something. The perfect lunch, Celtic salt, and you just drink some water with it. And my dark chocolate. So you have too much to spend because it's a public economy, meaning most of the money in the GDP is coming from the government, not from the private sector. If you don't get any money from the private sector, that's what moves the economy. That's the invisible hand. That's free market economics. We go get money. We make money. We go spend. So if everybody gets a job in the private sector, we pay our little tax, which we shouldn't be paying because it's illegal. We go to Wendy's, we go to the barbecue, we buy a Camry, which creates more companies. So it's like a domino effect. The more we spend, the more companies spurt up. The more, here comes Home Depot because we're buying houses. Here comes Toyota and GM because we're buying cars. And here comes all these car companies who make steering wheels and tires and brakes and lights and interiors and exteriors. So we have all this, which creates that creates that, right? So that's how the economy grows, right? But if it all is governmental, public finance instead of private, you don't have the same thing. The Department of Defense, well, let's say the education. What are they doing? They don't generate revenue. They get a paycheck, and then the employees spend, but the government itself isn't spending. They build a school, desks, maybe computers. It's a little bit different than us buying what we want and what we need. And so you have the public sector doesn't spend money as well as the private sector would. Then you get these contractors in bed with the people with the purchasing department, and Johnny gave me $1 million, so we're going to buy from Johnny's company and stuff like that. So you don't have competition, and you don't have a real free market, and they don't spend wisely as we would, right? I'm going to go to barbecue tonight or Chinese tonight, and I'm going to be careful. I'm going to buy what I can afford in my budget and all this. The government doesn't have that. They don't have a budget, as you can see how corrupt it is. So the lobbyists are giving them $1 million to use their company. So it's not free market. I'm choosing, do I want to go to grocery store A or B and buy my groceries? Well, one I go to for my meats, that's it. The other one I go to for the rest of my stuff because I'm saving, because I'm smart, but not the government. They'll just pay more for it. They don't care, and it's not as good competition wise. So this is the problem with your economy. If it's too much public than private, which is what we have now. So not only if it's private, I go to work, I get a paycheck, and I spend the paycheck. And with the government, there is no revenue that comes in, right? So the education, there's no revenue coming in there. They're building schools, and they got to get the teachers and the buses and all this. I don't even know why there's still buses. And I really hate when the buses stop on a main street, right? There's a 4-lane street, and the bus, instead of going into the neighborhood, stops. But what I don't understand is why the cars on the other side stop. The kids aren't crossing a 5-lane street. What the hell are you stopping for? Anyway, so there's all these costs that happen. The Department of Defense, they got to buy all the weapons and tanks and Tomahawk missiles, and HUD and the Department of Homeland Security and CTU, as I'm watching 24. It's all cost. There's no revenue. When Jack Bauer saves the people, he doesn't give them a bill. Hey, I stopped that nuclear bomb going off. I want $20 million. They're just protecting, but there's no revenue involved. They're getting tax revenue to pay for the department, but you can't have tax revenue paying for all the departments, because as you have more public sector, there's less in taxes coming in. They're probably not paying Social Security. They're probably, who knows what they're even paying in taxes. I heard they make $144,000 for a simple government job. I'm saying, like, Jesus Christ, I've never made 144 in my life. I don't even know what they ask for anymore, and they're getting 144 for clerks, which is another problem in the government. The salaries aren't competitive. So these people paying taxes, but they're not putting their money into the market. And again, there's no revenue being generated. You go work at GM, you're selling cars. So you're getting revenue, and then you're paying your employees, and there's profit. And that's not what the government does. There is no revenue. We're just buying missiles and Tomahawks, and that's all we have. We got our staff, and we got to pay them, but we're not generating any revenue. And the more public sector jobs you have than private sector jobs, you have this problem. So that's when you go too big of a government, which is what we have now. You're already bankrupt. So how do you get enough tax revenue to pay the debt? So in other words, I got to pay the Department of Defense. They don't generate any revenue. It's all cost. So the other problem with it is okay, I pay the employees, but I don't get any sales. I don't get any income tax from these people. I get income tax from the workers, but when GM makes $1 billion selling cars, I get tax on them, right? I get income tax from the company. I don't get it in the government. So all this government with all these departments, and none of them are paying income tax because there's no income, because it's all there's no sales that are being made. So that's what I'm losing by having a public sector versus private sector. And so I'm losing all this tax, and all these people are working, so my expenses are huge. Well, I only get so much in taxes from the individuals working and the private sector income tax, but I got all these people working in government, and this is the problem, right? So then I don't have enough money to pay all the government workers. And that's really what happens, right? So I got my workers here, but I got less people working here because more people are working for the government. And then I spend less, so I have less companies paying less income tax, but I still have all this government employees to pay. Where am I getting the money? Normally, GM makes the revenue, pays their employees. In the government, I don't have any revenue, and I'm paying these employees, and I'm paying them far more than I would at GM. And this is the problem. So I'm going to have to keep lending, printing T-bills. I have so much in tax, and then I have this extra amount I owe, which is what I have now. So now I print T-bills, and people buy the T-bills, and I use that money to pay the extra, the government workers, the military, and all this shit. But if I default, nobody will buy that. And my point is, I'm still over. So let's say I get 2 trillion in tax revenues in, but I'm missing all the income tax I'd be getting from companies instead of the government that doesn't pay income tax. They don't generate any revenue. So now I'm sitting there. Well, wait a minute. I still have 3-4 trillion I owe. Right? I can't balance my budget because I owe too much. I owe Social Security, the interest on the debt, the military, the Medicare, the Social Security, welfare. Wait a minute. Where do I get all the money to pay all that? I got to do T-bills. But I just defaulted. Nobody is going to pay for the T-bills. Well, I need gold because then I can raise the price on gold and I have the money. Well, no, I don't have any gold. And that's really what the problem is. So when you have too much of the government, it costs too much. There's no revenue coming in. Without the revenue, you don't have any. You don't have any income. No income tax, so you get less taxes than if you would have all in the private sector, and that's the problem with government, right? They don't produce revenue. They don't pay for themselves, and you don't really need them. There's nothing that the government does you need except for laws. So you just need judges to enforce the law, and then you need free trade, and you need to make the gold. You need to make the money out of gold, and that's it. So there's 6 things. Where are they? Right. So you need low taxes. So you don't really need government for that. Gold standard. So you need government to make the gold money. Free trade, you don't need government for. Constitution rule book for the laws. You need judges to do the laws. And low government spend to budget. So you need a lot less government. That's why you got high debt, because you're paying all these people in government that doesn't come from any revenue. And taxes are not revenue. Taxes are taxes. Well, Howard, if you paid $100 in taxes, that means that's revenue for us. No. Where'd you get that from? That's not revenue. That's you're taxing me. So you want me to pay for the government that I don't even want because it's too big. So that's the problem with too much public sector versus private sector. Again, the private sector, the companies are making revenue and paying income tax on it. In the public sector, there is no revenue because even the Department of the Defense, they're not charging for their services. They're just looking at submarines or boats or whatever they're doing in the Department of Defense. They don't generate revenue, so there's no income tax, and the expense is higher, and everything they buy is higher, and they don't. How are you going to budget it? So it becomes a real problem for that. Hey, Prophet, yeah, this will be the last one. So Hopefully this will work. I turned off my computer. I came back on. I think I'll just turn off before I come on from now on and go. I might have a memory problem, but it seems to be an internet problem. That's what seems to keep happening. Anyway, so that's the difference, public and private. So if you do go bankrupt, as I hear people go, well, we'll just default on our debt of 37 trillion. You won't be able to get money in, and you're still going to spend more because of the government workers over the private sector. You'll still have that. You'll still need extra money, because where else are you going to get enough money to pay all the government workers with no income from the government jobs, right? The DoD doesn't produce income, neither does the education or HUD or the FDA or any of these. They don't generate revenue. So that's the problem. Like I said, Jack Bauer, when he does stop the nukes from happening, he doesn't issue a bill. Yeah, California, you owe us $2 trillion because we stopped the nuke from happening. That's basically the problem, right? You got Jack Bauer solving the cases, but he doesn't get the government doesn't get revenue from the cities who they saved. And when we go to war, it's no income, it's all revenue. It's all expense, right? I got to feed the soldiers. I need tanks. I need weapons. I need more missiles. I need more bullets and more guns and everything else. So you need a lot of stuff. That's the problem. Do I have 5G? Yeah, I do have 5G. I'm not sure if YouTube's using 5G. My computer, I believe, is 5G. It should be. My phone is, I believe, 5G. I just think it's where I'm living. Let's see, 114 gold, 2916. So we're okay. I think it's where I'm living. It seems to be an area that loses internet once in a while. I don't know if they're fucking around with the wires or the wind or something, but I do notice it. Like I said, on a Sunday, all of a sudden I lose internet. I've lost it on sunny days. I've lost it on rainy days. It's just the area I'm in, I believe. Because this is very unusual to keep getting stuck and buffered. And it says it's an internet connection. I haven't touched it. The internet's working fine now. So I don't know. Anyway, so that's your problem. If you default, you're not going to do well. So England was the number one reserve currency in the early 1900s. Had to pay for the war with gold, had to pay for World War II with the gold, and they went broke. They were the reserve currency. The U.S. comes in after the war and becomes the reserve currency, and they back it by gold. And that's why you need the money backed by gold, because if you don't have the gold, that's why England went out. They had to give all the gold to the U.S., and they just finally paid off in 2016. So they needed more supplies, so they got loans from the U.S. at high interest rates from 1945. They finally paid it off in 2016. So they were broke for a long time. I don't know why the British pound's like $1.20 to the dollar. Why it's more valuable than the dollar, it never had made sense to me, especially as much of in debt as they are. Do you have fiber optics? I don't know what fiber optics are. I mean, this is plugged into the wall, my power source, but this is whatever I don't whatever I have at the apartment. I don't know technical stuff that well, so I don't know if I have fiber optics. I know my phone, I don't plug it into anything. I don't, it's coming out of the walls. I have a router, if that's what you mean, but I don't know what that means. Anyway, so Daria's birthday was yesterday. She seemed to have a good time, and I haven't talked to her today. I started working on her visa, so she needs a travel visa to come here. So I started working that. That's an invite. I don't know if the U.S. Embassy is working in Moscow or not, or if the war has to end. We'll see. Outside of that, off to the pool after, and Otherwise, just the normal. I got rent coming up, so I always make sure I got money in the bank for that. It's the only time I really go to the bank when I'm not working is just to make sure I've got money for credit cards and the rent, which Social Security covers the rent and stuff like that. So uh, I'm curious if the lease gets renewed in March, and I'm hoping. I haven't heard yet. I'm hoping it doesn't go. It didn't go up last year, so I'm hoping it doesn't go up this year because they know they'll lose tenants if it raises. So they said you can't smoke in the apartment. Well, I never smoke. I think Daria might. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but I don't smoke, so it doesn't affect me. So it's probably good. It'll probably keep the rent down because I'm sure that's an insurance thing, right? Oh, nobody can smoke, nobody can burn the place down. Therefore, our insurance probably went down, which is probably what they're trying to do, as opposed to raising rent. Again, anytime you fuck with the market, there's the prices. Here's rent, and so I'll pay. If you do this, our wait a minute, I can't afford it. So I'm hoping they don't raise it too much. Profit running an Ethernet cable from your modem to your laptop should help. That's what I use, and I never have any dropouts now. I can look into that. I used to do that, but I used to have a desktop. That's how old I had. The one mistake I made is I threw out my desktop, and I had Excel on it, and it didn't cost me anything. And now when you get the new laptops, Microsoft wants to charge you for Microsoft 365. And I don't know how much it is a month. And so I got Google Sheets, which I hate. It's ridiculous. But had I still had the computer, I could have used it just for Excel. That would have been it. That's all I would have needed. So be careful before you get rid of stuff because the Excel was free. I couldn't use the internet. There was a problem. They made a switch or something. So all of a sudden, my computer, I couldn't use the internet. Or half the sites I went to, it would be not connect. So that's why I got the laptop. But then I could still use Excel and Word and all that, and even Teams. Now I can't even use Teams because I don't have Microsoft because I don't want to pay for Microsoft 365, which I might have to. So I might get a new computer for that, but we'll see. Anyway, yeah, but I don't know if that's why I'm dropping if I had the cord hooked into that. It really doesn't happen. It only seems to happen on when I'm going to sleep, I watch Netflix. I never have that problem on Netflix. Once in a while, I notice if I'm on different channels that I'll get the pause and then I refresh and then I'm okay. So I do notice that. So it's just the overall internet. And again, these are all like on my phone, there's no plugin that it happens. But, some days, but most of the time it's fine. It really doesn't affect my TV once in a blue moon. If I'm watching Netflix or I'm watching Tubi or YouTube or whatever. Anyway, so that's what's happening. What else? So look for gold to keep going. Gold's not going down because the reason first of all, it's mostly the central banks are buying it. Like when me and you buy it, it's such a small percentage, nobody cares. It doesn't move the needle, but when the central banks buy a ton or 2 tons and they buy it off of COMEX, the price goes up. Well, nobody is selling their gold. So let's say Germany central bank are they going to sell gold and then going to sell it back? First of all, they'd never sell it back to COMEX. They'd sell it to Poland or Czechoslovakia or Russia. Nobody with gold, they're going to sell it to another central bank because there's a shortage of gold. So gold's not going down. When you see they're derivatives, it's just bullshit. They're just trying to lower the price to buy it is what it is. But nobody's selling their gold because nobody wants to get back into dollars. Because like I showed you in Britain, they went bankrupt. We are bankrupt. See, this is my point. Britain was the number one, and they went bankrupt. and now they're not, and we are. So A, you can't go bankrupt as number one, and B, we are bankrupt. So don't act like we can't go. And that certainly, you must understand the U.S. is bankrupt. But no, who's going to tell you that? Trump's not going to tell you that. But we'll look what Trump's doing. Well, we'll go audit the gold in Fort Knox because we need gold because we're bankrupt. And we got Doggy trying to eliminate all these because we keep paying too much. So it's like you owe 1,000 on your credit card and you're getting in 1,000. And now you've got extra expense and you're going, wait, I can't. I only have $1,000 coming in. That's all I can spend, but I got to spend 2,000. And so you look for ways to cut. Well, wait, how can I spend less? Only spend 1,000. And that's what the U.S. is doing, and it's too much government. For the example I just gave you, it doesn't produce revenue, so you get no income tax from it. There's no competition, so in a competitive environment, there's Ford and there's GM. They got to make good cars and they got to lower the price so people can buy it. But in the government, you're not paying for a service, right? If it's the FDA, you're not paying for that service. They're saying, well, this is a good drug and that's a bad drug, and they don't even know half the time, and it's all lobbyists anyway. But there's no competition for it, so therefore the price doesn't come down, and we don't even. Why we're paying for a service we don't even want or need. As I said, the only services that you want and need is you want to pay for you want a gold standard, free trade, low taxes, and Constitution. I mean, so what is your cost here? The only cost you have is a military and paying the people who are running the government, but it should be limited. And again, since you have no competition, is why government is so bad. This is the problem when you don't have competition and you just have a monopoly, which is basically what a government is. It's basically a monopoly. Here's the president. He's going to this is what we liked about the Roman Republic before the Roman Empire. The Republic was very successful because they had two councils or two presidents. You'd be the president in January. You'd be the president in February. That worked wonderfully because you didn't have a monopoly. So he would do something and then he would, and they would compete. And then, of course, it's better. That's what the private sector does. It competes and people are buying their goods and services. And if the government gets too much spend and it gets too big, there's no competition for the government. Right? The military, the defense, the Department of Defense, the FDA, all these, there's no competition for it. That's what really what you need is two separate governments competing. That would probably be the only way government can work, because the way it is now, it's theoretically a monopoly. Even though there's Democrats and Republicans, they're all on the same side. And that's why governments fail. And that's why monarchs and dictators fail. You cannot have monopolies. You must have competition. And so we need to throw competition into the government to succeed. And that doesn't mean Democrat, Republic. That means two different governments, and let the people choose. Two different restaurants. We'll choose where we eat. Two different cars. Which one do we want to buy? You leave it up to the consumer what they want. But what you have now is there's no competition, and therefore you're just paying whatever for the government, and it's more and more expensive. And you don't even have an option in it, and that's the problem with it. So we figure that out. Again, the government's trying to keep you into paper, into stocks and bonds, Bitcoin, and real estate trust and annuities. Anything but gold and silver. That's what they're trying to do. But it shows you, England shows you need gold and silver. That's the key to it. At the end of the day, that's the real money, and you can't default on it. And that's what you are looking for. So keep that in mind. You want the gold and silver for many, many reasons. Most importantly, because this will go bankrupt if it already has, is my point. It's already, if Egon says it's lost 99%, I'm like, really, like, how do you know when it's 100%? Because they're not going to say anything. But to me, it's 100%. If you lost 99, you've lost 100. If you're down 50-0 in the fourth quarter, you pretty much lost. The game's lost, right? Even though there's still 5 minutes left on the clock, you lost. It's 50-0. And we used to say that about the Russian-Ukraine war. Russia's up 78-0, and Ukraine won't end the game. And they keep expanding the game. Well, if we got another halfback and we got another quarterback in there, and the game's been over for 2 years now. So we will see. Anyway, this is why people are de-dollarizing, like in Britain. Inflation, again, I must keep reminding you, is not prices, it's printing the money. Alligator even got that right today. It blew my mind. I'll look for that and play it. I don't want to waste time. We're on number 3. But he finally admitted, so I know he's watching me, and I know Andy Schechtman's watching me, and this Bill Halter watches me, although they won't admit it for some reason. But all of a sudden they're talking Austrian and Keynesian, even though they don't know what it is, and now they're saying inflation is devaluing the money, not prices. So they're finally getting the Austrian thought. And that's why the Keynesian thought it doesn't work. That's why we don't look at what happened with Keynesian. Look at the British. They went bankrupt. Well, if they were Austrians, they wouldn't have went bankrupt. Simple as that. But the Keynesians go bankrupt because they think they can just keep printing money and you can't go bankrupt. Oops. That happened to the French. That happened to the British. And they keep wanting to go to war. It just doesn't make sense. So anyway, keep in mind, inflation's just the money supply devaluing the dollar. The dollar has no value. The dollar goes bankrupt. So you can't just keep printing the money. I don't know where they get this, that they think you can keep printing the money and there's no consequence. I mean, it's like children thinking. It's not adult thought, it's child thought. That's the Keynesians. The guy in the hot tubs, the communist, wants the employees to benefit from the company, not the owner. This is what the owner's the one taking the risk. He deserves. So if you're running a shoe store, you want all your employees to take your profit, not you? Come on, it's a stupidity. But that's what socialism and communism is. Oh yeah, there was this one. It was on John Stossel. Let me just take 2 minutes to show you this. All right, so these are socialist influencers get wrong. This was yesterday. I'll just play a little bit of it.
Just when I thought about moving out of Michigan, they finally do something that I love. If you live in a Michigan...
Socialism positively. Why? Maybe because social media is filled with economically illiterate people saying things like,
socialism is working better than capitalism 93% of the time.
93% of the time? Where does she get that? Well, I asked Stossel TV producer Christine Tokarev to investigate.
She got it from this study, published in the Journal of Health Services 40 years ago. But its Marxist authors conveniently exclude high-income countries, like the US, Japan, Canada, in fact, all the biggest capitalist countries. They compare socialist countries to allegedly capitalist countries like these, some of which were at war. Based on that, she says,
we have all the data showing that socialism does work.
Madeline Pendleton is a TikTok star with more than 1 million subscribers.
What do I like about communism?
She celebrates communism, too.
Mostly the increased life expectancy.
But there's no increased life expectancy. People live longest in capitalist places, like Japan and South Korea. Even in the United States, where more people die young because we drive more. And so we have more car accidents. We eat more and get fat.
Is that mac and cheese on your hamburger? It is mac and cheese.
We shoot each other more often, and we take more dangerous drugs. Yet we still live longer than people in China. But socialism is also better, says Pendleton, because of
the 90 to 100% home ownership rates.
100%? That's just silly. China, if you believe their statistics, does have almost 90% home ownership. But that only happened after China terminated socialist housing. Under socialism, just 20% of people owned homes. In socialist Venezuela, homeowners don't even own their homes.
Dozens of people squatting in this abandoned office tower in central Caracas.
Yet Pendleton claims
The commies want to steal your house from your landlord and give it straight to you.
Pendleton has plenty of company praising socialism on social media. This YouTuber with almost 2 million subscribers tells people why you should be a socialist.
The guaranteed right to health care, food, and shelter.
It's true, socialism promises free healthcare, food, and shelter. But that doesn't mean what people get is any good. Look at Cuba.
El sistema nacional de salud cubano está destruido.
Los hospitales abarrotados, la gente muriéndose en los pasillos.
This socialist TikToker with Karl Marx-like hair has 100,000 subscribers.
Capitalism is a political economy which prioritizes profits over people. The antidote to that political economy would be socialism, a political economy that prioritizes people over profits.
Socialist theory does. But again and again, what people get is misery.
You would be subjected to backbreaking labor, brutality, starvation,
countless millions of deaths, and the worst man-made famine in human history.
Yet a man calling himself spooky, scary socialist gets almost 2 million views saying,
communism did.
So somebody explain that to me. These guys are getting millions of views and millions of subscribers. I get 700 subscribers and 50 views. What am I doing wrong here, right?
It provided essential services like full employment, rough income inequality.
How can these people be so deluded? I'm eager to hear what they'll say when John interviews them. They tell millions of people
The central idea that unites all socialists is maximizing freedom, a more dignified life, and the democratization of power.
democratization? Like in China? Here, there's just one party, and its leader made himself president for life. Every socialist economy has failed. Venezuela was once the richest country in South America. Now, there are food shortages.
More and more people reduce to eating from the rubbish.
Socialism just doesn't work.
Seemed to work in Vietnam really great, actually.
So says this TikTok socialist. But what finally worked in Vietnam was free markets. Before Vietnam embraced capitalism, people went hungry. The country depended on handouts. Then Vietnam legalized capitalism and freed the private sector. The TikTokers make the same mistake about China.
Socialism worked in China.
China eradicated extreme poverty.
Wrong again. When China banned capitalism, millions died.
Those who didn't get on with the leader of the production team or those who disobeyed his orders were starved to death.
It was only after
Campaigns like the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution had killed tens of millions of people.
that China's leaders reversed course.
Embracing capitalism and encouraging private business.
Only then did average incomes in China rise. But socialism's promoters still say you don't need capitalism or profit.
Innovation can flourish even when people are not motivated by profit. The USSR gave the world the anthrax vaccine, artificial satellites, and one of the earliest mobile phones.
That's true, but do any of you have a socialist-made phone today? The West has just created so much more. The socialists say,
Ownership should be collective.
but every attempt, anywhere, at collective ownership has failed. In America, people tried that 200 years ago. In New Harmony, Indiana, private property was abolished. The result, as with similar attempts, was famine. No matter how many views these propagandists get, the fact is, socialism fails.
So what do these popular socialists say in response to these inconvenient facts? Sadly, I can't show you. We invited them to come here and make their points to you. Not one would.
Socialism stays winning.
The bottom line is that incentives matter. Nobody washes a rental car because most people don't care a lot about what belongs to everyone. It's just human nature. Capitalism isn't perfect, but if we really want a better future and freedom, capitalism not socialism, is the way to get those things. Thanks for watching this.
See, I love those because they'll come on and they'll make their points that are diluted, and absolutely. And this is that one guy was like the guy in the hot tub. Well, it should be divided. The company should be divided to the workers. You're like, then who would own a company? There would be no incentive to own a company if I can't make the profits. Well, I got to split it all, but they didn't invest with me. So I open up a pizza place, I'm putting my money in, and then I generate profits, and I got to pay my employees, but they're not entitled to my profits. Well, they're entitled to some of the profits. That's their salary. But if we make more than their salary, I keep it because I took the risk, because it's my money that created the company. That's capitalism, but they want to own the company with you without taking the risk. It doesn't work. So this is the problem. Socialism has never worked. And it's just funny. It's like Stossel is good about doing that. And, this is the same thing I have with Keynesians and Austrian economics. Keynesians has never worked. It's all about printing the money and, you can keep printing and you won't go bankrupt, even though we know that's bullshit. And so that's the problem with it. The Keynesians, it's proven it doesn't work. That's what caused the Great Depression in 1930 was John Maynard Keynes was FDR's guy. And he says, we need government spending. We need government price controls like in gold and silver now. And we know it doesn't work. You need free markets. That's what works, because then it's everybody makes their choices. And then you go to the best, and the best restaurant or the best tennis shoes or coats or the best the best glasses, you decide that, and that's what works. And if you make it price fixed where there's no competition and monopolies, that never works. You've got to have the competition. If you didn't have GM and Ford and Toyota, you wouldn't come out with good cars with good prices. You'd have shit cars at very expensive. So you wouldn't be paying for better things. So the key is really competition. The key is free market. Let us go to work. Let us make the decision. And you got to keep government short because they don't pay income tax. They don't produce. They don't make any revenue. They don't produce anything. The government doesn't produce anything. This is the problem with the government. They should there for the military and the laws and keep the money gold. That's the only roles for government, but otherwise they don't produce. There's no competition, so they're all monopolies by definition, and we're all fucked, and that's basically what happens. So with that, see, I was able to go 43 minutes. You know what's ironic about me? I don't even know if that's the proper word. I don't plan this. I did watch Mark Alligator and Andy Scheckman, and I watched. And then I'm not sure how they're going to come up in the conversation. And I'm just rolling. I don't really, wait, ask me a question. But now you guys do ask me questions, and I like that. But this is the point. I don't really I have a little brief. I'm going to talk about inflation, what it is, because everybody seems to miss that, or Fort Knox is in the news, or inflation seems to be in the news and nobody seems to know what it is. They all think it's prices, and it's not. And it certainly, if it is prices, should be from 1971 till today. Certainly not year over year. They just run with it, and then everybody goes, "Oh, inflation's 2%," and you're like, "You're out of your fucking mind. What do you mean 2%?" That's why I go to 1970. Pepsi was a dime. Now it's $3. And you want to say inflation is 2%. And I'm like, in what world are you talking? I've been watching these nostalgic videos, and it'll say like Wendy's, Big Mac is like 50 cents in 1980. And now it's $5. And you want to say there's no inflation? Well, it was 50 cents. It's gone up, 100%, 200, 300, 400, 5. It's gone up about 1,000%. From 50 to 100 to $1, $1.50 to $2 to $2.50. So it's gone up 1,000%. And you want to say there's no inflation? I mean, look at gold, $35 an ounce, and now it's approaching 3,000, and you want to say inflation's 2%. Okay. Well, good luck on that one. I'm not gonna. I know that's not true, but people will say it because they hear it and they don't know why. They don't understand. They just take it verbatim. Well, he said it's 2%, so it's 2%. You're out of your mind. It's like the attack on Wall Street where they, well, I won't sell you gold because I don't get commission on it because I only care about my commission. I don't care about yours. Well, charge me commission for gold. Say, I'll tell you what, I'll give you my advice and you're going to pay for my advice. And I'm going to tell you to buy gold. I don't get commission on it, but I'm going to tell you because you're my customer. Just like in football, I want to make you money betting football. I'm going to give you the pick. But in an investment advisor, financial advisor should be saying, look, I'll charge you X and I'm going to tell you to go into gold. And I don't get commission on that. But I'll tell you what, at the end of the year, you're going to make X amount. I'll take 5% of the money I made you. And you're going to say, oh, okay. And you go buy gold and you make money, as we've all made $1,200-$1,300 an ounce so far at 1,800. We're at almost 3,000. When it hits 5,000, we'll all be celebrating. And when silver finally goes to 500, we'll all be celebrating. And then I'll take my commission. I mean, that's what I would do, as opposed to not telling you about gold and silver. Or I'm too stupid to understand it, so I won't tell you to go into it. I'm telling you to go into, Microsoft stock or Apple. Go into Apple because everybody else is in it and it keeps going up. So you'll make money because it'll go up because it's all fixed because the government's putting their money into Apple, which they don't have. So a lot of what you see from Trump, he's thinking as a businessman going, government doesn't pay taxes. Government's a monopoly. Government is the problem. They don't generate revenue, but they generate a lot of expense. And I can't pay it, and I don't get enough money in because the government doesn't pay enough taxes and no income tax. I can't. I'm trying to run a business. I'm trying to run this government business with $1 trillion and spend $3 trillion. How can I do this? And that's why you see a $37 trillion debt, which is only going to go up because you got to pay interest on it, which you can't get out of. So his out was gold, and now he's realizing there is no gold, which I don't know how he's just realizing that now. There is no gold, so now what do you do? And the gold he's buying is paying down the derivatives, not a gold-backed currency or anything else. That's all he's doing. He's paying the derivatives down because the derivatives are now you have to, people were taking delivery of the gold, not just the paper. So the moral of the story is never take anything in paper. If I owe you this Montana card, you take the card. If I tell you to buy gold, you buy physical gold. You do not buy paper. The same thing, and get out of stocks, get out of Bitcoin. You don't own the Bitcoin. What is it? I don't know. Well, if I don't know what Bitcoin is and I can't hold it, and I'm not sure what it is, and I'm not sure why it goes up and down, I probably shouldn't be in it. So I know people give me, oh, look at it, it was 100,000. I get that, but at the end of the day, it's going to be Madoff. It's going to be zero because there isn't anything. It's an illusion, just like Madoff. So understand that. You want things you can hold. You want cards that you can hold, that you have. And you want gold, and you want Rolexes, and you want nice paintings. That's what you want. I heard some idiot say, well, if I'm in the jungle in Africa and I have a Picasso, I won't get anything. But if I have gold, I will. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to take my Picasso in the middle of the jungle. Like, wouldn't I be in a city with my Picasso and I'm going to go sell it? Like, don't I know to sell art? And art's a very tough thing to sell. Just like this. There'll be several markets. There'll be 70,000, 80, 90, 100, 120, 150. There's a lot of different markets for the Montana rookie card. Graded 10, of course. And that's so there's not one value. Just like gold, really, I don't know you can say there's one value for gold, that it's 29.20 or whatever it is at this moment, because it changes all the time. But I don't think it's one market. I think it's, and if you notice, this is for, does it say 24 karat gold? Does it say 999 gold? It says gold. 1 ounce of gold goes for $29.20 right now. That's what it says. So if you have a coin and it's 999 or 22 karat 911, it's, as long as you have an ounce, that's what the value is. It doesn't matter if it's a cougar and a maple leaf, an eagle, a buffalo. It's 1 ounce of gold. That's how I've always been shopping for it. 1 ounce of gold, 1 ounce of silver. As long as it says 1 ounce, it's pure and it's tested and it's fine. I don't give a shit if it's a cougar, a maple leaf, and an eagle. And I don't care if it's 999 or 9 or 24 karat, 22 karat, because all I care about, it's an ounce of gold. And an ounce of gold's an ounce of gold. Now, as long as it's 22 karat, I'm okay. If it was 14 karat, that would only mean that there's other ingredients mixed in it. So really, as long as it's 1 ounce of gold, I don't know how it can be 14 karat, but let's say it is. I don't care, because it's 1 ounce of gold. Like there's this $20 Audens 1920 gold, and it's always a little bit cheaper than the ounce. And I looked, and it's like 9/10 of an ounce. So it's not quite an ounce. And when I see that, I then now I understand why it's cheaper. But I would never buy it because I don't really know the weight. Now if I go the James Bond one from Russia with Love, you had 50 gold sovereigns. Well, a sovereign's a little bit more than a quarter ounce, but it doesn't say gold on it. It doesn't say the weight on it. So I don't buy that, because how am I going to sell it? You don't know it's real gold, and you don't know the weight of it. So I'd rather get a quarter ounce that says quarter ounce of gold, and it's quarter ounce, right? It's a quarter ounce of gold. Okay. We know it's gold. We know it's a quarter ounce, case closed. So there's no thing. So that's what, and I'm very careful about buying stuff with like Trump on it or Biden on it. I can't sell a silver coin with Trump on it to somebody that doesn't like Trump. I don't want to do that. So if I do get the Trump, I have to sell it to a Trump guy. It's like Teaserking, right? I'm selling my picks to football people who bet football, period. I don't discriminate. Well, no, it's got to be a pink or a purple guy or a blue guy or a silver guy. It's whoever wants the pick, you get the pick. And I don't try to differentiate anything. It's keep it. That's how free markets work. Okay, Prophet, we read that. All right, so the last question I have for you, Prophet, is then, have you only met this girl online, or have you actually met her in person and held her hand and kissed her and hugged her and taken her to dinner and dated her? Or is this just an online chat that you have with her? This would be my concern. You have to meet them. I used to chat with Carmen, and then I met Carmen, and it was a little bit different. Or meeting Jenna was, Howard, it's Positano. It's Positano, not Positano. So when you're with them and you're on vacation, you've got to meet them. You've got to hold their hand. You got to kiss them. You got to take them to dinner, sleep with them, have meals with them, go shopping with them, to really see them, especially if you're serious about them. You can't just, they're very pretty, but if you don't meet them, I would be careful. We'll email you all the details later. Okay, fine. I don't mean to get too personal, but we're pretty open here. I mean, that's like Daria. I haven't met Daria. I've met her online, but I haven't met Daria in person. That's what I'm waiting for. Now, meeting Jenna and meeting Carmen, I met them online, and then I met them in real. And, so it does matter. You do get the personality of what they are and how they treat you. What do they want? Do they want jewels? Do they want, like, Jenna wanted a fur coat, but I think I fucked up. I think it was probably priced in rubles, but I thought it was priced in dollars. It was like 70,000, but it was probably rubles, which is probably like a couple $100 American. But I thought, I don't have 70,000, so I probably fucked up the conversion rate. But you just see how they are to you, and it's really you got to be with them. You got to hold their hand and kiss them and talk and go shopping and go to movies and all this stuff. You have to do all that because you've got to really got to live with them and see what it is. But I am a little bit concerned where she's sending the gold to you. If you haven't met her, I'd be worried about a scam. That's why I say it, because that happened to me and I caught it as a scam, and I didn't allow it to happen. I go, why don't you just take the gold? What do you need me to get the gold for? So you'll be surprised. There's all these angles, all these scams. So just be careful. Just trying to help you. Anyway, I think that's it. So part 3. So 3 1 hours as opposed to 1 3 hours. So this is curious. But notice this, it's almost 56 minutes. I've had no interruptions. I think I had a real brief 2-second one, and then it came back. So again, it could be the time, it could be the day. I don't know. Anyway, time for lunch, an omelet with hamburger in it. It's yummy, yummy. And watching 24 and then my YouTube stuff. So I'm quite busy getting ready for class. I'm just learning. I set up a tutoring thing. I never heard of this place, but I think I got to advertise it because nobody will know I'm even on it. Here I'm starting to make some money, which is a good thing. I don't know what. Social Security I'm all set with. And then I got to start doing unemployment based on losing the Tenneco job because they eliminated the position. Out of curiosity, I saw a finance manager for Tenneco where I was working. So I have applied for that one, and I emailed the HR person, hey, I have applied here. And then I'll really get the answer. If they really just eliminated the position, but they liked me, which is what I think happened, then I should get a call for this. If they just didn't like me, then I won't get a call. Then I'll know, I did something or whatever. They didn't like me or just whatever, I wasn't the right type. I don't know. Anyway, that's what's going on. So waiting to hear from Daria. I hope she's okay today. She needs her surgery on her tooth or cavity that's in her cheek. I don't understand it. I asked her about it yesterday, wishing her a happy birthday, and she said, I don't want to talk about it today. I'm going to make a delicious dinner and go buy the present from you. And I said, okay, then I understand. Just go and enjoy. So I haven't heard from her today. She could be at the doctor's or she needed a CAT scan. I don't know why, but again, I told her go to the dentist. If it's a cavity that happened and it's in your cheek, he should be able to get it out. Far cheaper than going to the doctor and he's going to do some surgery, some operation on you. So I don't know. Again, she called it a foreign object. Now she realizes it's a tooth. It probably was hitting a nerve, but this is apparently a long time ago, so I don't really get it. Anyway, looks like the war's ending soon. It's probably costing Trump money. He's looking at it as a businessman. And he's going, I can't afford it. I can't give the money to Ukraine. I got a $37 trillion debt I got to get rid of. So I can't keep paying them. So it again becomes money. And Trump doesn't want to be the president that made the U.S. go bankrupt, even though it was Biden and the rest of it. But that's how he'll come across. So look for this war to end soon. And then, like I said, I did a visa visa invitation for Daria. She still has to go to the U.S. Embassy and say, well, I'm going to go to this guy and he'll take care of me. And, off we'll go from there. So she has to apply. That's what I did for Carmen. I got her a visa invite and she got the visa and she came here. She lived with me for 3 months and, it was okay. I enjoyed it. We did a lot of traveling. We took a 4-day in New York and we drove to Chicago for the weekend because I'm only 4 hours away from there. We went to Niagara Falls and Vegas. July 4th, we went for a week. So it was nice. We liked traveling in this way. The only thing I didn't do with her was Florida, but it was hot. It was summer, or like Hawaii, maybe the Caribbean we could have went to, but she was costing me enough money anyway. So I think that's about it. Any other questions or comments, Prophet, anything? Buy your gold and silver. Basically, we're broke, just like England, just like I showed you. See, I like when I can show you examples because you don't understand it, but that's why I bring up the Roman Empire. If they went bankrupt, anybody can go bankrupt because they control half the world and they still went bankrupt because they took the gold and silver out of their money. And that's what it all comes down to. It's got nothing to do with cycles or anything else. It's about when you start inflating your money is when you're fucked. And usually it's because you go to war. I know Russia went, France went, England went. We're at war all the time. I don't know why we're at war. I don't know why you're the leader. You're the number one and you want to keep going to war. You're trying to tell people how to do things. Or you want to expand your empire. I don't know what we're doing, but now Trump's doing tariffs and doing everything else. He's actually doing the opposite. He's not expanding the empire. He's imploding the empire. He doesn't want to play with anybody else. So that's a very dangerous thing because you get things from other countries that you need. So you like that China's makes computers very cheaply. So you're gonna have problems with that. Anyway, we'll see what's going on, and let's end with our last look at gold. Gold 29.13. So it's funny, we have our little drop at about 9:30, and then it immediately comes back. And you can see the days about 29.13, 29.15, right in that range. I assume it'll just go out till 6, 7 o'clock. Right around the 29, 13, 15. And we're at our high. We want to get to, well, I think once we hit 3,000, there's two things. Once we hit 3,000, we see 3,500. I think it really blows. And silver's 31.79. And I think once silver gets to 35, then it goes to 50, and they're doing their best to holding it down. This is not free market. Nobody in the world sold gold at 9:45 and then bought gold at 10 o'clock. Nobody sold and bought at that time. That's why we know it's bullshit. It's all just paper derivatives to do it. That's why I try to say paper gold 29.05, now 29.13. Because that's exactly what it is. This is not the physical price. This is not a free market price. All right. Anything else? I was looking at the NFL. Maybe I'll do that later or tomorrow. I'll do one on the NFL draft. I was looking at quarterbacks, and there's a few that you don't like. The guy at North Texas, Chandler Morris, very good, very strong. The guy at Texas State, as I talked to you about, so when you're watching these games and you're analyzing and you see these over teams, they got good quarterbacks and good offenses. Why wouldn't that work in the pros? So now I don't know. I would not draft that. The guy on Prime's team, the dual guy, I wouldn't draft him number one. Where are you coming up with? He's this big talent. I don't understand it. So anyway, we'll talk more about that later. A little change of pace, but I like to keep you on current events. Fort Knox, inflation. You cannot Cheer inflation. I was going to read that. I'll do that later because of all the technical problems. But I actually went into Google and I said, "What is inflation?" or something. I asked the question, and you get or some other economic questions, and you get the stupidest answers. So anyway, all right. Well, that's what's going on. Time for some lunch. 2:00, and then I get to the pool. I guess I'll leave about 3 and go hit the pool. So I like that routine. To me, it's not boring. I enjoy the teaching and I enjoy going there. I do want to go to my school and ask about adult education. Sort of, I teach it here, but I want to teach it at school. There's too many people that don't know what the hell they're doing and they don't understand it. So we will try to do that. All right. Well, have a good day, everybody. www.teaserking.com. You want to get my email? Profit. Have a nice day. Good luck to everybody. Buy your gold and silver. And you can see we're already bankrupt, but they don't want to tell you. All right. Have a good day. Take care.